Tomas Kaselionis is a first-generation American-Lithuanian and a longtime military and disaster responder. Tomas offers a fresh perspective with his unique and varied background. He started his first restaurant at 12, ran a $1 million restaurant at 19, and managed a $150 million a year security operation by age 26. Now 40, Tomas is running to bring his leadership and get-it-done attitude to the Board of Supervisors. And in full disclosure, he wrote the introduction. Tomas, thanks for being with us. And in a minute, what's your case for replacing Supervisor Kinsey?
Well, I've spent the last 8 years honing a set of skills when getting placed into a disaster environment that you have to diplomatically navigate a very strenuous and consequence environment. That set of skills, I believe, will serve the County of Marin and the citizens in trying to find solutions to very complex issues. We have very varying points of view, and everybody's energized, and that's very much the environment that I've operated in, especially over the last 8 years. And it's not just exclusive to the Region 9, which is 3 CONUS states and a state in the Pacific and the territories, but also in the East Coast, in the Midwest. And so I've come to know how to come into a community that's new, that I've never been to before, gain their trust very quickly, and then work with them to find solutions. I think I can do that as Marin County Supervisor.
Thank you.
Complex issue. People commonly will mention that we probably need to look at access for more property or trying to build our way out of it, and I don't think that's necessarily an acceptable approach. There are other factors in terms of taxation, how expensive it actually is to own a home and operate a home. When it comes to the short term, I actually agree with Dominic that the occupancy tax needs to be looked at, especially if someone isn't using long-term rentals and they are actually using it for short-term profitability. I met somebody the other day that was getting $14,000 a week out of their residence. That pretty much takes care of a mortgage for a good period of time when they can spend $200 and stay at the hotel down the street. So when you look at that disparity of income in that area, you're going to have to look at how you can impress upon them that that's not a practice that the community supports. And there are several different ways I think we can do that, and we'd have to explore really what has worked nationally. Well, thanks. I think I'm the only existing commuter. I have since 2002 commuted to South San Francisco and now Vanpool to Oakland. And so on a daily basis, I see that, as well as my wife, Kim, who is a small business owner, spends pretty much her life in her vehicle having to drive the 101 corridor. You know, some of the solutions that didn't get implemented is we built all these on-ramps with a great metering, but never turned them on. And in the East Bay, you can see it's a very effective strategy. We also have to tie some systems together. I heard recently that 2 of the busing systems are going to separate, further distancing the coordination of timing that were permitted. And I'd also look at new technology, and I've kind of disclosed this on my website, but where are really the carpooling apps? And I know that there are some new startups in San Francisco that are looking at for schooling and to work with trusted parents. But we have to look at those types of strategies and bring them and nurture those kinds of companies within Marin. Well, and I know that in speaking with several people, there's a big housing deficiency, especially in West Marin, for the workers on the ranches and on the milking facilities. And so, you know, I think that there are innovative ways for larger businesses, people that are actually employing a lot of business, and finding ways to being able to combine with, I was talking to Dr. Peters at MCF, and he says, you know, there are some examples where we're putting together buildings that don't just build homes, but they build community centers, they build community engagement areas, there's schooling that's involved in that. And so when you're looking at a more collaborative project than simply just building homes, I think the community could accept something like that. Also, when I deployed into the Gulf and saw some of the post-Katrina rebuilding, they were building modern, beautiful, environmentally neutral homes. Where are those projects? I'd love to see examples like that, and I know that the community would support if they were brought in early. And so, you know, as an emergency manager, we have to bring in people with varying points of view. They also have, you know, a biased opinion, and being able to bring those people together for those types of shared projects that the community can support is something that I want to do as county supervisor. Well, I'm unlike my colleagues here. I grew up in Southern California, a small town in Tustin, and it used to be a small orange grove, and we used to walk through there getting to the farmer's market. And then I spent almost a decade in the Central Coast and then moved up here in 2001. And so I'm kind of a transient Californian, and that really is emblematic of what really West Marin or District 4 really looks like, is that they've got these pockets that are their own unique environments and community. And couple that with my disaster experience, I go into these communities not knowing much of their background. And I have to go in with an open mind and open heart, hear what they have to say, tell me what their problems are, get to the root cause analysis, understand what the community is willing to support, and then help them get there. That's the role of the Marin County Supervisor, especially in District 4. And when you talk about, I know Brian did bring up the area in and around Bay Point and the Cove up there. There's some major issues that people were very, very open about disclosing how those issues are, and I understand that. I understand how to be able to come in and listen to that and then try to find and help solutions. You know, I've worked more 100-hour work weeks than I care to admit, and I know what it means to put in a long day's work, and I still continue to do that. I just came back from 3.5 months of being deployed and finding, you know, temporary and long-term shelter for 3,000 people that were impacted by the fires in Lake and Calaveras counties. And I want to bring that experience to Marin County so that they can not only feel comfortable in my solutions. I'm very accessible in terms of social media if that's what they use, and I use my own accounts for the campaign because I have long-standing relationships with people throughout my time here. I want to use my business acumen to come in and look at the financials. I think that there is space and opportunity to be able to make more available the funds that are in the budget for uses like projects and trying to look at busing strategies, like looking at comprehensive affordable housing units and what the county can actually provide and support, making investments in transportation and cutting those down. What are we really going to do when the train comes online, and are we going to tie our systems together? Those are complicated issues, and that freedom of movement is very important to Marin. I actually have a lot of personal history with homelessness, and for me it's a very personal issue. And I support the Marin Organizing Committee's initiative to also find a permanent home for rest. You know, I find it objectionable that we have kids that are homeless on the streets. I find it objectionable that veterans are not finding access to those services. I want to be able to invest in those programs to make sure that by the end of my first term, that there isn't a homeless child in Marin County and there's not a homeless veteran in Marin County. I'm very passionate about that. I think that the long-term solutions, I know that many communities are not supportive of finding those types of facilities near their homes, so we have to find a delicate balance of finding a permanent home, not only for rest, because I do believe that program needs to be expanded, but also supporting Ritter House and the invaluable services they provide. And I know that the Marin Community Clinic is hugely a proponent of ending homelessness because they see the bulk of those residents or non-residents in their facilities, and they want to see that end. And I think we've got partners that we can bring together to find that solution.
And REST is the program that's being run by individual churches throughout the county.
That's right.
On a basic ad hoc basis.
Yeah, every single night they rotate from congregation to congregation, and the stress on those volunteers is pretty large. And they are looking for some relief, and I think that we can do that.